Have you ever wondered why SpongeBob SquarePants is so obsessed with blowing bubbles? It might seem like just a fun activity, but what if there's more to it? Some people believe that SpongeBob's bubble blowing is actually a stand-in for smoking. Could it be that those bubbles are a metaphor for cigarettes? Why does SpongeBob blow bubbles so much, and what could it really mean? Let's explore this quirky theory and see if there's more to SpongeBob's bubble-blowing habit than meets the eye. Could there be a hidden message behind those bubbles? If you're curious about whether SpongeBob's bubble blowing is a hidden metaphor for smoking, hit that like button and subscribe to Toon TV. Stay tuned for more intriguing theories and fun content that might just change the way you see your favorite shows. The Bubble Stand episode. The theory kicks off with the Bubble Stand episode, the second one in the SpongeBob SquarePants series. In this episode, SpongeBob sets up a bubble-blowing stand right outside his house. While he's soaking up the calm morning in Bikini Bottom, he suddenly decides to start this new venture, much to the irritation of his neighbor Squidward. Squidward, who's trying to practice his clarinet, is frustrated by the noise SpongeBob is making with his construction. After complaining, Squidward asks SpongeBob to keep it down, which SpongeBob reluctantly agrees to. He finishes the stand quickly and begins charging 25 cents for each bubble blown. The episode sets up a curious scene where SpongeBob's bubble-blowing business starts, and Squidward's frustration grows, laying the groundwork for our theory about the hidden meaning behind SpongeBob's bubble blowing. Patrick joins in. Patrick, SpongeBob's best friend, comes by to blow bubbles but has no money. SpongeBob lends him a quarter and offers to teach him how to blow bubbles for another quarter, which Patrick also borrows. SpongeBob demonstrates his bubble-blowing skills, spinning around and making funny moves. He even creates a giant bubble in the shape of an elephant. Unfortunately, the bubble drifts over to Squidward's house and pops, making Squidward really angry. He storms outside, complaining that bubble blowing is ridiculous and dismissing SpongeBob's explanations as nonsense. Despite his annoyance, Squidward's curiosity gets the better of him, and he decides to try blowing bubbles himself. SpongeBob, always the opportunist, charges him 25 cents for the chance. Squidward's curiosity. Squidward pays SpongeBob and starts trying to blow a bubble, but he has a hard time getting it right. With SpongeBob and Patrick's help, he finally manages to blow an enormous bubble. This bubble is so big that it lifts Squidward's entire house off the ground. As the bubble keeps rising, it causes a lot of commotion. Squidward's house floats higher and higher into the sky, and SpongeBob and Patrick are running around in a panic, trying to get Squidward's attention. Squidward, still struggling with his bubble, doesn't notice what's happening until it's too late. When he finally looks outside, he's stunned to see his house floating far above Bikini Bottom. The bubble eventually bursts with a loud pop, and Squidward's house comes crashing down, creating a huge mess. The whole scene ends in chaos, with Squidward's house now a wreck and SpongeBob and Patrick trying to calm the situation. The smoking theory. Looking at this episode from a different angle, some people think SpongeBob's bubble blowing could be a metaphor for smoking. The episode aired in 1999, when a pack of cigarettes cost about $3.90 and had 20 cigarettes. If cigarettes were sold individually for 25 cents each, there would be a small profit per cigarette, making it a possible business. SpongeBob's bubble stand might symbolize selling cigarettes. Just like SpongeBob makes money by teaching others how to blow bubbles, he could be seen as making a profit from selling cigarettes. Squidward's curiosity and eventual attempt to blow bubbles could represent how people sometimes start smoking out of curiosity or influence from others. This perspective adds a new layer to SpongeBob's seemingly innocent bubble blowing, suggesting it might symbolize something more grown-up. The bubble-blowing urge. Another episode that supports this theory is Whatever Happened to SpongeBob. In this episode, SpongeBob is having a really tough day and feels isolated from everyone. After a string of bad luck, he decides to leave Bikini Bottom, feeling like he has lost all his friends. He ends up in New Kelp City, where he suffers from amnesia and takes on a new identity, Cheesehead Brown Pants. Even though SpongeBob can't remember who he is, he still has a strong urge to blow bubbles. This craving continues despite his memory loss, suggesting that bubble blowing is a deeply ingrained habit for him, much like a smoking addiction. The idea is that SpongeBob's need to blow bubbles remains constant, even without his memory, similar to how a smoker's craving for a cigarette persists despite other changes. This adds a new dimension to SpongeBob's bubble blowing, hinting at a deeper, more persistent need. The driving lesson. In the episode Burst Your Bubble, SpongeBob faces a tough time with his driving lessons. Mrs. Puff is frustrated with his poor driving skills, and SpongeBob feels overwhelmed and stressed. To deal with his nerves, SpongeBob turns to his favorite activity, blowing bubbles. He even says, "Nothing soothes one's frazzled nerves like blowing bubbles." This line highlights how SpongeBob uses bubble blowing as a way to calm himself down when he's anxious. It's similar to how some people might turn to smoking to relax and manage their stress. Just as cigarettes can provide a moment of relief and distraction for smokers, SpongeBob finds comfort and relaxation in blowing bubbles. This adds another layer to the theory that SpongeBob's bubble blowing could be a metaphor for smoking, showing that it's more than just a fun activity for him. It's a coping mechanism he relies on to handle stressful situations, reinforcing the idea that there might be a deeper meaning behind his bubble-blowing habit. The backdrop of smoking. SpongeBob's bubble blowing could be seen as a stand-in for smoking because of its repetitive and calming nature. In the episode where SpongeBob fails his driving test and gets kicked out of the boat, he's depicted blowing bubbles in a way that resembles an addiction. The way he repeatedly creates and pops bubbles mirrors the repetitive action of smoking. This scene might suggest that SpongeBob's bubble blowing is more than just a fun hobby. It could be a substitute for smoking. Just as smoking can be a comforting routine for some, SpongeBob's constant bubble blowing provides him with a sense of relief and calm. The visual comparison between his bubble blowing and an addiction reinforces the idea that there might be a deeper meaning behind this activity. It's not just about having fun or passing time. It could be a way for SpongeBob to cope with stress and frustration, similar to how people use smoking as a form of comfort and distraction. The diary incident. In the episode Little Yellow Book, there's more evidence supporting the theory that SpongeBob's bubble blowing could symbolize smoking. In this episode, SpongeBob hides in a barrel, writing in his diary. When Squidward finds and reads SpongeBob's private thoughts, SpongeBob is heartbroken and humiliated. Squidward then experiences his own downfall, losing his home and facing ridicule, which might symbolize the negative consequences of smoking. SpongeBob's reaction to the embarrassment is to retreat into his comfort zone of bubble blowing. This could be seen as his way of coping with the stress and sadness he feels, similar to how someone might use smoking as a way to manage their emotions. The episode suggests that SpongeBob's bubble blowing serves as a soothing escape from his troubles, just as smoking might for others. This connection strengthens the idea that SpongeBob's habit of blowing bubbles is more than just a quirky trait. It could be a metaphor for dealing with difficult emotions and finding relief from life's challenges. Bubbles and smoke. The idea that SpongeBob's bubble blowing could symbolize smoking gets a boost from the similarities between bubbles and smoke. In Bikini Bottom, vehicles often release bubbles, much like real-world cars emit smoke. This visual comparison might hint that bubbles are meant to stand in for smoke. For instance, you might notice that bubbles and smoke both float and eventually disappear. This similarity could suggest that SpongeBob's bubble blowing is more than just a fun activity. It might be a clever way of referencing smoking. By using bubbles in place of smoke, the show provides a subtle nod to smoking habits without directly showing cigarettes. So next time you watch SpongeBob, think about how bubbles might be serving as a stand-in for smoke. It's an interesting way the show could be hinting at a deeper meaning behind SpongeBob's bubble-blowing habit. So, what do you think? Could SpongeBob SquarePants really be a pack-a-day smoker using bubbles as a stand-in for cigarettes? It's a wild theory, but the episodes we looked at might make you think twice about his bubble-blowing habit. Does this theory change the way you see SpongeBob's antics? Next time you watch the show, keep an eye out for any hints that might support this idea. Do you have any scenes or thoughts that could add to this theory? Share your thoughts with us, and until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the hidden secrets of your favorite shows.